had, that was an unfair criticism. And for that, I apologize. Because even Scripture says that, God has ordained praise out of the mouths of babes and sucklings. So, yeah, children can speak wisdom, and the kingdom of heaven belongs to children. So you don't have to have life experience to enter the kingdom of heaven. In fact, like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. So let them come to me. But that was an unfair criticism. I was talking about that limousine crash. All the people died on this limousine, 18 people, including the driver, and how absurd that is. We had a head-on wreck here on the turnpike, the freeway, the interstate here. Okay, people are gone. It's typically 70, 80 miles an hour out there. We had a semi-truck driver crossed over into the oncoming lanes. He was southbound. This bus, 40 high school kids on this bus, crashed head on, and none of those kids are in seatbelts. 10 people died in that accident. So likely that was the bus driver, the truck driver, and so presumably 8 school children died in that crash. And you're going to tell me that these people weren't already dead? Either they were poisoned or they've got to check their blood for carbon monoxide poisoning. Got to. When Ford, remember they were selling those cars to the police, and the police got almost knocked out by the fumes in the thing. Check those vehicles. But there's powerful interests that are against that from being found out. Could you imagine how, and the people, the Ford executives want to make sure they sell their shares first, because they don't want this thing going to court or coming to light that these people were poisoned and it was because a leak of, that was Ford's fault. It wasn't just that it didn't pass the safety muster, which is another problem. So there's problems all the way around here. All I'm saying is that the likelihood those people were all dead before they crashed, I think, is pretty damn good. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So it should be strongly investigated, deeply investigated. When I was talking about this guy whose face was blurred and he was a Hispanic Latino guy, and that's a privilege, and I couldn't understand that. Remember, I abhor privilege. So that was my beef. I don't care that the guy was Hispanic or if he was Middle Easterner, if he was black, if he was yellow or red, white. It didn't matter. Special privilege I'm opposed to. Okay, I was not brought up a racist. I love Cesar Chavez, okay? I had Hispanic friends all at junior high. Okay, Art Gonzalez was a friend from like 7th and 8th grade. Like when I went to school, San Lorenzo Valley High, it's in the Santa Cruz Mountains, the town of Felton. And but he was one of my buddies, just my regular, clique that we hung out together. We went to keg parties together. Believe it or not, even back then, 14 years old. I was going to keg parties, so yeah. But anyhow, I've always had Hispanic friends. I love Latinos, and I had my former grandfather-in-law, my wife's grandpa. He lived in the town of Watsonville, which is also in Santa Cruz, southern Santa Cruz County, borders on Monterey County. And he was a Scottish guy, immigrant, I guess. Kind of pure Scot, pretty much white as the driven snow, and he absolutely loved Watsonville, and Watsonville was predominantly Hispanic, Latinos. But he seemed to love that influence, the family ties and all the, so he loved it. He's, to him it was paradise living in Watsonville, and this guy was, like I said, white, very white, and he thought, Santa Cruz was a hellhole, is what his words. And of course, as we know, Santa Cruz City is predominantly white people. So I'm just saying, I am not in any way, shape, or form racist about anybody, and certainly not Latinos. And my mother had a great affinity and fondness for Latin people. She was born in she was 6 years younger than my dad. My dad was born in 28. So that means she was born in about 1934, December 1934. And that's the era she was brought up in East LA. She spoke fluent Spanish as a result, because it's predominantly Hispanic Latino people in that area. So I certainly was not brought up racist, nor did I ever form any racist tendencies. Okay. But anyhow, enough said on that. I just wanted to make my point clearer on that. And vindicate myself from my own mouth. You know, I mentioned the best way, the lowest cost way to buy housing. If you want, you know, if a young couple is dead set on buying housing, even in California, the best thing to do is work with an owner, seller, financer, and buy a lot. First, you need just a lot. Okay, find an area you like, and then you look for a private lot owner, and then you approach him. So you circumvent the real estate agent. Don't have anything to do with the real estate agents. And then the next thing you do is you try to get them to finance it. So to have nothing to do with lenders. This is how you got to do it. You got to go in there with hand in hat as a couple, because it's very hard. Unless you make a good income, a single person's going to have a really hard time keep buying any property in California. Most jobs just don't pay enough to qualify for any kind of loans, and you don't want loans anyhow, unless it's a lender, I mean the owner of the property giving you a good deal. So you work with the owner of the property. Owner financed is what they call that. And so you can do that, and then you buy a modular house. They all look like houses. They're better than houses because they're raised up a few feet. It's a technicality. They're on a chassis, so you don't pay regular property tax on the land improvement. You're just paying for a registration fee on your modular home, your mobile home, your trailer. And it's a lot less than paying for a foundation house. A lot less. So you're going to save a lot in property taxes by doing that. That's one way. And another way is also to do group purchases. So in other words, let's say you know another couple that you're compatible with and you're really confident that you can learn to live together, especially if you think it through and you have separate entrances. So you could actually literally redesign the inside of a 2-bedroom house and turn it into a 4-bedroom house. If you wanted to, you could turn it into a 6-bedroom house. You could do whatever you want for the most part. Okay, you just get the right permits and all that. But you understand, so you could raise families in one house, 2 separate families, 2 separate entrances. You don't have to see each other for the most part. So that's how you can also cut your costs in half again. So I'm just trying to give some ideas of my knowledge about real estate and all this stuff, economics. I'm telling you, the greatest hope is in just getting a really good deal and thinking it through and working together if you can, okay, with other people. But you can cut your costs a lot. So don't be scared by $300,000 price tags, $1 million price tags. You can dramatically cut those costs by just doing those things I talked about. And definitely get, a fixer-upper if you can. If you're handy, fix it up yourselves and whatever necessary. We got a raucous Honduran migrant invasion coming. But some of them are leaving wives and kids behind and then saying, well, they're leaving, they're fleeing war down there, which Doug Hagman pointed out. He was on the Alex Jones show yesterday, and he's pointing out how that's inconsistent, illogical, unreasonable. Calling themselves veterans from fighting, or they're, war refugees when they're leaving their the most vulnerable members of their family behind. That doesn't fly. That doesn't hold water. Sometimes you meet the weirdest people out there, street people even. The old, what we used to call hippie types out there. And the support for Donald Trump, it really has surprised me. It's taken me aback. I'm really pleasantly surprised that everybody's just not, a stupid, mindless leftist. I mean, there's some good liberals out there that say, you know what, I'm not particularly loyal to any party, but I'm just going to vote my conscience on what I believe is the best thing for the country and best thing for the poor and the homeless, the downtrodden, the least of men. And these are some of the people I met. I met a guy recently downtown Chico I was very impressed with. He looked like a real freak, man. But had to dig a little. The fact that he liked Trump didn't come out of him easily. Because he's probably afraid of the ramifications. I mean, you meet so many virulent and vitriolic Trump haters that, people are intimidated. They really are. That this is one of the tactics of these extreme leftists that don't even know what the hell they don't. I mean, they won't talk to have a conversation about economics and what socialism is and what the net results are, and do we want America to go the way of China, and understand the forces behind trying to get us to go that direction. The ones I'm talking about, the vitriolic leftist, unreasonable ones, I mean, they're scary, man. They're intimidating. That's the best tactic they think they've got, is just to shout people down, and those are very fascist tactics. To not have a conversation is fascist. It's unreasonable. It's un-American. It's inhuman. Don't do it, for God's sake. This thing with the Saudi Arabian journalist, you know what I heard? I heard a little clip, a little blurb on the news. They were saying, hey, if we go after Saudi Arabia, they could quadruple our gasoline prices at the pump. So that means we'd be paying like $15 a gallon for gas in California is the threat. So we better kiss up and bow down to the Saudis. Right? Hey, wait a minute. Didn't we take over like Libya and Egypt and where else did we take over there? We took over Iraq, right? We took over what? Afghanistan, huh? Where else did we take over? I forget. I mean, there are just so many countries in North Africa and the Middle East that we took over that the head, reels, the mind reels. But what's the problem? You think that our military would have any problem taking Saudi Arabia out in 10 minutes and taking control of the oil wells? Remember what we went through with all the oil wells being ignited? What we've already been through in fighting this desert storm and taking over ancient Babylon and Iraq? What we've already been through, and you're telling me that we're afraid of Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is going to be able to manipulate our gas prices to, here in California, at least around the country, $10-12 an hour, they're saying, and in California more. They're telling you that's the threat, and so we have to, comply to, if they're going to kill journalists for using their free speech rights. We're going to say that's, we're going to close our eyes to that and worry about the implications, the ramifications. No way. Come on, that ain't going to happen, especially in light of the fact that America is a net importer of oil. So what in the hell is anybody talking about? Why don't we stop exporting our oil? I mean, we're a net exporter, right? Is that what I said? Okay, we're exporting oil. We're making too much. We've got too much, so we're sending it off. We're selling and trading it. No, let's keep it at home, okay? And let's start talking about disruptive technology. Everybody look up Stan Meyer's water car, okay? I just watched another video on this. It blows your mind, man. He had a device. He already had a miniaturized device for creating hydrogen. And people wonder what got him assassinated? Who's hampering innovation? Why the earth is overwarming? And all we hear is rhetoric from Al Gore, but no talk about Stan Meyer's water car and disruptive technologies of every sort? Why we aren't making the highways out of solar? Well, we're not going to talk about those things. Owning our own energy, clean energy. Owning our own gasoline in form of water at 100 miles to 1 gallon of water. We're not going to have that conversation. It's where we are. That's where humanity's at in the 21st century. And is anybody so frickin' foolish to believe we don't need God's help and guidance? God, help us. We are in so much trouble. Locally in Davis, California, some of the rest of the country might have heard about this and around the world because it was so bizarre. But there was 2 high school brats. I think it was a woman. I don't know. Grandparent. They used the remains of the grandparent to bake sugar cookies and feed them to their schoolmates. Is that, what the hell is that? Is that really? This is what they did. They put them in sugar cookies and gave them to their schoolmates. These psychos, man. See, now I talk about ethics rehabilitation centers. This is a perfect example for who belongs in an ethics rehabilitation center. Okay? They need to be taught what's wrong. And they need to question every cookie they ever eat for the rest of their lives about who baked it And what are the ingredients of those cookies? So let them chew on that for a long time in an ethics rehabilitation center. That's what I would do. My first impulse was that they need to be slapped silly a little bit and humiliated publicly. That, I don't know, I think a little public humiliation, a good pantsing might do. Something.